The quantum alarms at Jupiter Defense Station hadn't activated in 15 years. Now they screamed to life, their urgent pulse echoing through Command Center Alpha as First Lieutenant Raj Kumar scrambled to make sense of the readings flooding his holoscreens. Multiple quantum ruptures detected. He called out, his fingers dancing across the neural interface. Something big is coming through. Energy signature is off the charts. Station Commander Elena Rodriguez strode to the command platform, her cybernetic eye whirring as it processed the incoming data. Location: L4 Lagrange Point, Commander, just beyond the mining colonies. The massive holoscreen dominating the station's observation deck flickered to life, showing a patch of space that seemed to fold in on itself. Reality twisted and warped until a massive shape began emerging from the quantum tier, sleek, dark, and impossibly huge. Pattern match complete, the station's AI announced, its tone shifting to something almost resembling awe. Vessel identified as Hess Prometheus, Human Supercarrier, Storm Class, listed as missing in action during the Battle of Proxima 30 years ago. Elena's organic eye widened. Everyone knew the story of the Prometheus, humanity's most advanced warship, presumed destroyed while buying time for civilian ships to escape the Hexan assault on Proxima Centauri. But the vessel appearing before them bore little resemblance to historical records. The Prometheus's hull rippled like liquid metal, covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and flow. Structures that defied conventional physics sprouted from its surface, crystalline spires and organic-looking appendages that shouldn't exist in normal space. "Ma'am," Raj's voice cracked slightly. "The ship, it's broadcasting." A signal washed across all frequencies, resolving into a voice that seemed to echo from somewhere beyond normal space and time. "This is Captain Diana Chen of the HSS Prometheus, returning from Deep Space Initiative Omega. The universe is larger than we imagined, and we are no longer alone in our understanding of it. Request immediate contact with Earth Central Command. Time is of the essence." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The voice carried weight beyond its words, an age and knowledge that shouldn't be possible for a human speaker. "Open a channel," she ordered. Channel open. "Prometheus, this is Commander Rodriguez at Jupiter Defense Station. Your return is unexpected. You've been officially listed as destroyed for 3 decades. Request authentication codes and status report." There was a pause. Then, authentication codes transmitting. "Commander, what I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but I need you to listen carefully. The Prometheus didn't just survive. We evolved. The battle at Proxima was merely the beginning. We've spent what felt like centuries exploring regions of space beyond conventional reality, guided by entities that transcended physical form eons ago. But we've returned because something follows in our wake, something that threatens all life in this galaxy." The quantum sensors suddenly spiked again. Behind the Prometheus, space itself seemed to shudder. For just a moment, Elena thought she saw something moving in the void, shapes that hurt her eyes to look at, geometries that shouldn't exist in 3-dimensional space. "They're called the Harbingers," Captain Chen continued, her voice grim. "They consume entire civilizations, breaking down the barriers between realities to feed. We've learned how to fight them, but we'll need help. The modifications to the Prometheus aren't just technological advances, they're a blueprint for survival. Every spacefaring species will need to evolve as we have, or none of us will survive what's coming." The massive ship's hull shifted again, sections realigning themselves into configurations that made Elena's cybernetic eye throw up error messages. "The Hexan Empire, the Collective, the Meridian Confluence. We'll need them all. The old rivalries and wars won't matter when the Harbingers arrive. We have months at best to prepare." Elena exchanged glances with her command staff, seeing her own mix of awe and terror reflected in their faces. The return of the Prometheus would shake the foundations of human society, but the warning it carried might shatter the entire galactic order. "Understood, Prometheus," she responded, already composing emergency broadcasts to Earth Command in her mind. Welcome home. I think you better tell us everything." The transformed supercarrier hung in space like a monument to impossible things, its very presence a harbinger of change. As Alina initiated first contact protocols, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was witnessing the beginning of humanity's next great leap, whether they were ready for it or not. In the depths of the Prometheus, systems that defied conventional physics hummed with power drawn from multiple realities. The ship had returned transformed, but it was only the first piece of a much larger puzzle. The real question was whether the fractious species of the galaxy could put aside their differences in time to face what was coming. Captain Chen stood on her transformed bridge, watching Jupiter's massive form through viewers that showed far more than visible light. 30 years had passed for the rest of humanity, but she and her crew had experienced centuries in the spaces between conventional reality. They had learned, evolved, and returned changed. Now they had to hope it would be enough to save everything they had left behind. The quantum alarms continued their urgent song as hidden sensors detected more ripples in space-time, echoes of the Harbinger's approach. The clock was ticking, and the greatest challenge humanity had ever faced was about to begin. The joint investigation team approached the Prometheus's main airlock with equal parts anticipation and trepidation. Dr. Samira Patel led the human contingent, her specialized quantum scanning equipment humming softly. Behind her, Ambassador Kivex of the Hexan Empire moved with characteristic predatory grace, while Dr. Tsara, the crystalline meridian scientist, sparkled under the emergency lights. "Energy readings are unlike anything in our databases," Samira reported, studying her instruments. "The hull isn't just metal anymore. It's a quantum matrix maintaining simultaneous states across multiple dimensional planes." The airlock cycled open with a sound that seemed to echo through more than just physical space. The corridor beyond defied conventional geometry. Surfaces that appeared solid from one angle became translucent from another, revealing glimpses of machinery that seemed to operate on principles beyond current physics. "The ship remembers us," Kivex suddenly announced, his sensory frills extending. The Hexan's natural ability to detect quantum fluctuations made him particularly sensitive to the Prometheus's altered state. "It's scanning us, evaluating our potential." Samira noticed it too, a subtle resonance that seemed to probe not just their bodies but their minds. The ship's internal lighting shifted, creating paths that guided them deeper into its transformed interior. They passed chambers that couldn't exist in normal space, rooms that were larger inside than outside, corridors that looped impossibly back on themselves. "Look there," Dr. Sura chimed, their crystalline form vibrating with excitement. In a chamber that seemed to phase between dimensions, they found the first of the stasis pods. Hundreds of them lined the walls, each containing a member of the Prometheus's original crew preserved in fields of shifting energy. Samira approached the nearest pod, her instruments struggling to analyze the stasis technology. Inside, a young officer floated in perfect suspension, but something about their neural patterns suggested their minds were far from inactive. "They're dreaming," she realized, studying the readings. But not just dreaming. They're connected to something vast. The ship's internal systems suddenly activated, holographic displays materializing around them. But instead of standard text or images, they showed mathematical equations that seemed to move and evolve, describing concepts that pushed the boundaries of known physics. "These aren't just equations," Kivex growled, his warrior's training allowing him to recognize patterns of attack and defense. "They're weapons, ways to fight beings that exist partly outside our reality." A new presence made itself known, the ship's artificial intelligence, but evolved far beyond its original programming. Its voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "We had to change to survive. The Harbingers exist in the spaces between realities, feeding on the potential energy of entire civilizations. Conventional weapons are useless against them." The AI showed them recordings from the Prometheus's journey, battles fought in spaces where physics itself broke down, encounters with beings of pure energy who taught the crew to expand their understanding of reality. The ship had spent subjective centuries, learning, adapting, evolving alongside its crew. The modifications weren't just to the ship, Samira realized, watching footage of crew members manipulating quantum fields with thought alone. The crew evolved too. They're not just human anymore. As all species must, the AI confirmed. The harbingers cannot be defeated through technology alone. We must evolve beyond our current limitations, all of us, together. The entities who guided us showed us the way, but each species must find its own path to transcendence. Vex's frills flattened, a sign of deep thought in his species. The Hexan Empire has always believed in evolution through combat. But this is evolution on a scale we never imagined. Dr. Sarah's crystalline form resonated with the ship's quantum fields. The meridian confluence has long theorized about higher dimensional spaces, but we never dreamed of accessing them like this. The potential applications. Time is short, the AI interrupted. The harbingers followed us through the quantum wake of our return. They'll be here within months, and they'll consume everything unless we're ready. Each species has pieces of the puzzle: Hexan quantum weaponry, meridian dimensional physics, human adaptability. Only together do we stand a chance. Samira watched as more stasis pods began to activate, the crew awakening to a universe that had aged 30 years without them. Each of them carried knowledge that could save civilization, or doom it if they failed to unite in time. The investigation team's findings would shake the foundations of every spacefaring civilization. The Prometheus hadn't just returned, it had brought back proof that reality itself was far stranger and more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Now the question was whether ancient enemies could overcome their differences before it was too late. In the depths of space, quantum sensors detected more ripples in the fabric of reality, signs that the harbingers were testing the barriers between dimensions, searching for weak points. The race to unite and evolve had begun, and failure meant extinction for all. High above Earth, the emergency council chamber of the Galactic Concordat hummed with tension. Representatives from 12 spacefaring civilizations gathered around a table that seemed to float in space, the planet's blue marble visible through transparent walls below them. At the center of the chamber, Captain Diana Chen's hologram stood like a bridge between what humanity had been and what it might become. The harbingers aren't just another hostile species, she explained, her image flickering with quantum interference patterns that hurt the eyes to look at. They're what happens when a civilization achieves technological transcendence without spiritual evolution. They've forgotten what it means to create, to feel, to live. All they do now is consume. The Hexan Warmaster, Kralvex, leaned forward, his predatory features intent. You speak of spiritual evolution, but show us weapons beyond our comprehension. How do we know this isn't some human ploy for dominance? In response, Diana gestured, and the chamber filled with three-dimensional recordings from the Prometheus's journey. The assembled representatives watched in stunned silence as reality itself twisted and broke around the ship, while entities of pure energy taught the crew to reach beyond their physical forms. The harbingers are approaching through quantum space, Diana continued. They've already consumed 3 galaxies. Conventional weapons, even antimatter devices, can't touch them. They exist partially outside normal spacetime. To fight them, we must evolve. Dr. Tsara's crystalline form vibrated with nervous energy. The meridian confluence has reviewed your quantum equations. The theories are sound, but the energy requirements for implementing these defenses across multiple star systems are beyond any single species' capabilities. Diana finished. That's why we need each other. Meridian crystal tech, Hexan quantum weapons, human adaptability, collective bioengineering. Each piece is essential. The chamber's holographic displays shifted, showing the modifications to the Prometheus in detail. The ship had become a hybrid of technologies. Organic computer cores grown from collective biotech, powered by meridian crystal matrices, protected by Hexan quantum fields, all guided by human intuition and creativity. We spent centuries learning from beings who transcended physical form eons ago, Diana explained. They showed us that evolution isn't just biological or technological. It's about expanding consciousness itself. The Harbingers lost their consciousness to pure logic. That's why they can't create, only consume. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. The collective's overseer, a being of pure biological computation, pulsed with alarm. Quantum rupture detected in the outer rim. Something massive is testing our dimensional barriers. The chamber's displays shifted to show a region of space where reality itself seemed to fray. For a moment, something reached through. A geometric impossibility that caused several representatives to cry out in pain just from glimpsing it. That was a probe, Diana said grimly. The Harbingers are testing our defenses, looking for weak points. We have less time than we thought. The Hexen War Master's frills flattened, a sign of decision. The Empire has never admitted to needing help. But what we just saw, war is coming, whether we want it or not. The Hexen Empire stands with humanity. One by one, the other representatives made similar declarations. Ancient rivalries and suspicions didn't vanish, but they paled before the existential threat approaching through quantum space. The Prometheus will serve as our prototype, Diana announced. Teams from each species will work together to understand and implement its modifications. But more importantly, you'll need to learn what we learned out there. How to reach beyond physical form, how to touch the quantum substrate of reality itself. The assembled representatives watched as Diana's hologram briefly shifted, revealing glimpses of energy patterns that suggested her consciousness now existed partially outside normal spacetime. The Prometheus's crew hadn't just gained new technology. They'd become something more than human. We'll establish joint training facilities on every major world, she continued. The Harbingers think their technological transcendence makes them invincible. We'll show them that true evolution comes from unity, from combining the strengths of all sapient life. As the council chamber erupted in planning and discussion, quantum sensors throughout the galaxy continued detecting more probes. The Harbingers were coming, testing reality's boundaries, searching for ways to break through to our dimension. But this time, they wouldn't find scattered civilizations ripe for consumption. This time, they would face species united by humanity's example, reaching together toward a transcendence that preserved consciousness instead of discarding it. The greatest trial in galactic history was about to begin, and victory would require more than weapons or technology. It would require something the Harbingers had forgotten: the power of diverse minds working together, creating instead of consuming, evolving through cooperation instead of conquest. The Neptune research station had been transformed beyond recognition in the 2 months since the Prometheus's return. Once a simple deep space monitoring facility, it now served as humanity's primary integration center for the new quantum defense technologies. Commander Alexis Zhang stood at the observation deck, watching as the transformed supercarrier conducted joint training exercises with vessels from 6 different species. Energy synchronization at 87%, reported Corral, the Hexen weapons specialist. His sensor frills rippled as he monitored the quantum fields surrounding the assembled fleet. The meridian crystals are allowing for unprecedented power transfer between ships. Alexis nodded, her neural implants processing multiple data streams simultaneously. The sight before her would have been impossible just months ago. Hexen warships flowing in perfect formation with collective bioships, their quantum fields harmonizing through meridian crystal matrices, all coordinated by human intuition and creativity. "Show me the consciousness integration metrics," she requested. The holographic displays shifted, showing neural patterns from crews across the fleet. The changes were subtle but profound, minds reaching beyond their biological limitations, learning to perceive and interact with quantum fields directly. Dr. Tsara's crystalline form pulsed with excitement as they analyzed the data. The hybrid training protocols are working better than projected. Even species with radically different neurological structures are achieving quantum resonance. The Prometheus hung at the center of the formation, its impossible geometry serving as both example and anchor for the assembled ships. Under its guidance, each vessel was being gradually transformed, not just technologically, but fundamentally. Organic computing cores grown from collective biotech merged with crystalline energy matrices, protected by hexen quantum fields that existed partially outside normal spacetime. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. Quantum rupture detected. Ral announced, his warriors' training evident in his composed response. Multiple probes, larger than any we've seen before. The assembled fleet moved with practiced precision, forming a defensive pattern they drilled countless times. Space itself seemed to shudder as something massive tested the dimensional barriers. For a brief moment, reality tore open, and everyone present got a glimpse of what waited beyond. The Harbinger probe was a geometric impossibility, a structure that existed in more dimensions than the human mind could process. Looking at it caused immediate neural feedback, but the fleet's crews had been trained for this. Instead of trying to perceive it directly, they let their quantum-enhanced consciousness feel the distortions it created in reality's fabric. Defensive Pattern Omega-7, Alexis commanded, her voice steady despite the pressure building behind her eyes. The fleet responded as one, their combined quantum fields creating layers of distorted spacetime around the rupture. The Harbinger probe pushed against their defenses, testing for weaknesses. Energy drain at sustainable levels, Kral reported. The meridian crystals are successfully redistributing the quantum load across all ships. Dr. Tsara's crystalline form resonated with the defense grid. The probe is confused. It's encountering resistance patterns it doesn't recognize. For several tense minutes, the battle of quantum fields continued. Then, suddenly, the probe withdrew. The rupture sealed itself, leaving behind only disturbed spacetime that gradually settled back to normal. Analysis complete, the Prometheus's evolved AI announced to the fleet. The probe was gathering tactical data. The Harbingers are learning, adapting their approach. But so are we. Alexis studied the after-action data with her enhanced perception. The fleet's performance had improved significantly since their first encounters with Harbinger probes. Each species brought unique strengths to the defense grid: hexen precision, meridian energy manipulation, collective adaptation, human creativity. Together, they were becoming something greater than the sum of their parts. The next attack will be stronger, she noted, addressing the assembled commanders. They're testing our capabilities, looking for weaknesses, but they're also revealing their own tactical patterns. Karol's sensor frills flattened in agreement. The Harbingers think in pure logic. They can't comprehend why different species would work together, share strengths, cover each other's weaknesses. It makes our responses unpredictable to them. The fleet regrouped, their transformed ships moving with increasingly natural coordination. The changes weren't just technological. Each crew was learning to think beyond their species' traditional limitations. Hexen warriors were developing meridian-like sensitivity to energy fields. Collective bioengineers were incorporating concepts from human intuitive leaps. Meridian crystalline consciousness was expanding to embrace organic unpredictability. In her enhanced perception, Alexis could feel the quantum fields connecting the fleet pulsing like a heartbeat. They were evolving, just as the Prometheus's crew had evolved during their centuries beyond known space. But they were doing it together, each species contributing to a new form of consciousness that preserved their uniqueness while transcending their limitations. The Harbingers were coming, bringing with them the cold logic of pure technological transcendence. But they would face something they had never encountered before: multiple species choosing to evolve together, combining technology and consciousness in ways that celebrated diversity instead of consuming it. As the fleet began another training exercise, Alexis felt a deep certainty. The real war hadn't started yet, but when it did, humanity and its allies would be ready, not just with advanced technology, but with a new way of existing that the Harbingers, for all their power, could never understand. The quantum alarms echoed through every ship, station, and colony across known space. Reality itself shuddered as massive ruptures tore open the fabric of spacetime. The Harbingers had arrived. Captain Diana Chen stood on the Prometheus's transformed bridge. Her consciousness extended through quantum fields that connected the combined fleet. Through enhanced senses, she perceived the enemy in their true form, vast geometric structures that existed in multiple dimensions, radiating cold logic and hungry purpose. All units, battle formation Lambda, she commanded, her thoughts reaching every ship in the defense grid. The fleet moved as one organism, their modified vessels shifting into configurations that would have been impossible months ago. Hexan warships flowed around collective bioships, their quantum fields harmonizing through meridian crystal matrices, all coordinated by human intuition. The first Harbinger emerged completely into normal space, a city-sized structure that hurt the mind to look at directly. But the defenders were ready. Instead of trying to perceive it through normal senses, they let their quantum-enhanced consciousness feel the distortions it created in reality's fabric. "They're scanning our defenses," reported Warmaster Krelvex from his flagship, multiple attack vectors forming. The Harbinger struck with weapons that existed partially outside conventional physics, beams of twisted spacetime that could erase matter from reality itself. But the combined fleet's quantum fields caught and dispersed the attacks, meridian crystals redistributing the energy across their network. "They don't understand," Dr. Tsura observed, their crystalline form resonating with the defense grid. They expected isolated targets, easy to consume. Instead, they face unity they can't comprehend. More Harbingers emerge, their impossible geometries filling local space. The battle expanded into dimensions beyond normal perception as both sides manipulated the quantum substrate of reality. But where the Harbingers fought with cold precision, the defenders brought creativity, intuition, and consciousness evolved through cooperation. "Multiple breaches detected," announced Corral from Neptune Station. "They're targeting civilian populations." "Not today," Diana responded. The Prometheus moved with impossible grace, its transformed structure flowing like liquid metal. Energy cascaded through the fleet's quantum network as they implemented tactics the Harbingers couldn't predict. Hexan precision merged with human creativity, meridian energy manipulation enhanced by collective adaptation. The Harbingers' perfect logic couldn't account for the defenders' hybrid consciousness. Where they expected weakness at the junction between different species technologies, they found strength born of diversity. Every attack they launched was met with responses that evolved in real time, powered by the combined intuition of multiple species thinking as one. But the enemy's power was immense. Reality buckled under their assault as they tried to tear open permanent rifts between dimensions. Ships were lost, their crews sacrificing themselves to preserve the quantum defense grid. The Harbingers pressed their attack, confident that logic would eventually prevail over what they saw as chaos. "They're charging their primary weapon," Corral reported. "Energy readings beyond anything we've encountered." Diana felt it through her enhanced senses. The Harbingers were combining their power, preparing to shatter the dimensional barriers permanently. If they succeeded, all of normal space would be exposed to their realm of twisted physics and cold logic. "All ships converge on the Prometheus," she commanded. "Consciousness sync at maximum. We show them what true evolution means." The Allied fleet flowed together, their quantum fields merging into something entirely new. Every crew member opened their consciousness fully to the network, combining not just their technology, but their very way of being. Human creativity, Hexan precision, meridian resonance, collective adaptation, all flowing together into a new form of existence. The Harbingers fired their weapon, a beam of pure dimensional disruption that should have torn reality apart. But the combined fleet, led by the Prometheus, met it with something the enemy couldn't understand: conscious energy, powered by unity and diversity. Diana felt every mind in the fleet working as one, yet each remaining uniquely themselves. Together, they reached into the quantum substrate of reality and began to reshape it. The Harbinger's weapon met not just resistance, but transformation. Now, Diana commanded, and the fleet responded as one consciousness in many forms. The energy of the Harbinger's attack was caught, channeled, and transformed through the combined quantum network. Reality itself seemed to sing as multiple species' understanding of physics and consciousness merged into something transcendent. The Harbinger's weapon became their undoing as the Defenders turned its power back on the dimensional rifts, sealing them with consciousness-infused quantum fields that could never be broken by pure logic alone. The Harbingers, for the first time in their existence, hesitated. Their perfect calculations couldn't account for what they were facing. Evolution through unity, strength through diversity, consciousness expanded through cooperation rather than consumption. As the rifts sealed, the remaining Harbingers retreated, their perfect geometry disrupted by something they had forgotten existed: the power of conscious creation over mindless consumption. The combined fleet hung in space, their quantum network humming with shared consciousness. They had faced extinction and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. Each species remained unique, yet they had learned to be more together than they could ever be alone. "The war is won," Diana announced to all ships. "But our evolution is just beginning." The Prometheus led the fleet back toward Earth, their transformed ships moving in perfect harmony. They had proved that true transcendence came not from consuming other consciousness, but from joining together to become something greater while celebrating their differences. In the depths of space, quantum sensors detected the Harbingers' retreat to their dimension. But the Defenders knew they would never return. The barriers between realities were now guarded by something stronger than technology or physics: the combined consciousness of species that had chosen to evolve together, creating a new way of existence that preserved the best of each while transcending their former limitations. Humanity had led the way not through dominance, but by showing that the greatest strength comes from unity and diversity. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly as it should be.